Well, good morning and a very warm welcome to the Step Over webinar series in winter and spring 2022. My name is Joachim Fischer, and together with my colleague Julian Benz, we appreciate that you're spending the next 30 minutes with us. Our topic today are cloud-based signatures, the right choice for my business. And Julian will cover that topic afterwards. If you're having any questions, please simply type them in the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. I will compile and collect them, and we try to answer all of them at the end of the session. If we cannot cover all questions, we simply reply via an email to you. Step Over is really a pioneer in the electronic digital signature. We started more than 20 years ago as a small hardware company out of Stuttgart, Germany. And still today, everything we do is designed and manufactured in Stuttgart in Germany. But today we are an international business covering all aspects of the e-signature. So with Step Over, you can sign on a signature pad, obviously, but also on your smartphone, on your computer, on a tablet, whatever device you're having. And you can do that either on-premise based, in the cloud, or on your computer. On our website, you find a lot of small and big examples with the small and big customers from projects all over the world. With that, I want to hand over to Julian, who will cover our today's topic, our cloud-based signature, the right choice for my business. Over to you, Julian.
Thank you, Joachim. A very welcome from me as well. My name is Julian Benz. I am a key account manager with Step Over, and I'm responsible here for overseeing our international partner and reseller network worldwide and help our international customers implement our e-signature solutions. So if you decide to join us afterwards on the journey to implement e-signatures in your business, you'll likely see my face quite a bit. So let's have a look at what we're going to talk about today. Obviously, cloud-based signatures is going to be our topic, and we're going to talk about it from your perspective, so you know what questions you need yourself to be answered. The first one is going to be, why should I consider the switch to e-signatures? We're then going to talk about the different business use cases that you can digitize, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples from our customers where you then might be able to reproduce them in your environment. Then we're going to have a look at what type of e-signatures does my business require. There are 3 different types, so it's important to know which one is the right choice for you. And then we're going to look at the implementation timeline, a very important thing for your project managing team. We're then going to get to the nitty-gritty, which is the live demonstration, and the little bit less gritty, which is the compliance of e-signatures, but equally important, of course. And then at the end, we're going to have a summary on a single slide, so you've got all of the information present there, and we're then going to go over into the Q&A session. So as Joachim said, if you've got any questions throughout this webinar, please post them at the bottom, or afterwards send us an email and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. So, why should I consider the switch to e-signatures? Electronic signatures enable a completely digital workflow without the requirement for break-in media. So what that means is, at the moment, if you don't have electronic signatures, you might start a process digitally, such as having a PDF form. Then you print it out and give it to your customer to fill out. Your customer signs it, hands it back to you, and then you need to scan it in and convert that information from the piece of paper into your backend system. That takes a lot of time. So the major reason why you should consider a switch to e-signatures is the return on investment. And that return on investment comes from a couple of key factors. The first one is the decrease in idle labor time. Your employees no longer need to wait for printers to spit out 50 pages and check they're all in order. There's no more scanning of documents involved, and there's no more filing of paperwork involved. Obviously, paper contracts have got a significant resource cost attached to them. With e-signatures, you no longer have the requirement for paper or toner. You no longer need to spend money to mail the contracts out to customers. And probably the single most cost-reducing factor that few businesses think about is the physical archive that's no longer required. For example, when we've got our vaccination centers around Germany as our customers, and for every patient that they are handing out a jab to, and at the moment we're on to our third vaccine, there's paperwork required, and that paperwork needs to be signed and then stored. And if you're thinking about how many citizens they're vaccinating, there's a massive amount of paperwork that needs to be stored for a considerable amount of time to comply with health regulations. All of that is no longer the case if you use electronic signatures. From a contract completion time, it will only take you seconds instead of days to complete a contract. So let's say you are onboarding a new employee and you're trying to woo them away from other potential opportunities. You're able to offer them that they can sign their contracts with you like this. And both of you have got the original copy. Equally, especially from a sales side of point, customers are less likely to change their mind if they can sign something immediately, rather than them saying, in principle, yes, I want to sign it, and then it takes 2 to 3 days for the paperwork to move between the two parties. Of course, electronic signatures drastically reduce your carbon footprint. Most of that comes from the resources that are involved, and with a lot of companies now going net zero or even negative, this might be an important step in achieving that goal for your company. And then finally, probably one of the most costly processes to rectify is when mistakes happen. If you're using an electronic signature solution that is integrated into your backend system, you will encounter no more filing errors because a computer takes part of that. You can also auto-validate signatures. So let's say you've got a contract with 3 parties. Each of these parties needs to sign the contract at one location. That contract will not be accepted back into your system until our system says all 3 signatures have been successfully placed on there. So that prevents things like having uncompleted contracts and then only noticing it down the line a couple of weeks later, and then obviously the costs involved with backtracking, trying to find who hasn't signed it yet. And of course, you have the option to automatically extract information from form fields that have been inserted. So if a customer fills in a bit of extra information that you didn't have in the beforehand, you can simply then add it automatically to your backend system. So, which business use cases can I digitize? There's obviously the typical face-to-face, which you might encounter at trade counters, bank tellers, car rental counters. There is video sales, very big in the insurance sector, because it allows you an instant contract completion. We're going to have a look at one of those examples with a QR code later. Very big during the pandemic, and probably for the future as well, are remote signatures. You can send the signatory the documents and they can review it and then sign it in the comfort of their own home. You can sign at external clients, so it enables contract completion at the customer site, or that could be also used for delivery of high-valued goods where you want the person to sign it there and then, but it's not sufficient to simply have an X like you do with UPS, for example. You actually need a signature that holds up in front of a court of law, because the goods might be valued at 10 to 15,000 euros. A unique thing that StepOver is able to offer you as a cloud signature solution, it might be counterintuitive that we have an offline option. But if you use our Android and iOS apps, you can synchronize the documents before they are signed, and then simply once a connection is re-established, it will automatically update these contracts and send them back to the server. This is especially relevant for all of our maintenance customers who do a lot of servicing of equipment in factories with thick rebar concrete walls, or sometimes even underground in basements, where a data signal is blocked, hence they're unable to sign online in those environments. And then, of course, internal use cases. For example, remote onboarding of employees, internal approval with digital certificates such as training, payroll, etc. So, what type of e-signature does my business require? The type of e-signature required really depends on the type of documents that you want to sign. There are basically 3 types of electronic signatures under EIDAS and their equivalents worldwide. That is the law regulating electronic signatures. You have simple electronic signatures, advanced electronic signatures, and qualified electronic signatures. Advanced electronic signatures, or otherwise called AES, are the industry standard because they are not as complicated as qualified electronic signatures, and they're much more secure than simple electronic signatures, which are basically just a picture of a signature. AES can be used for around 95 to 98% of your documents. Some of our customers can even sign 100% of their documents with advanced electronic signatures. QES, qualified electronic signatures, are only used if they're really legally necessary, as it requires external identification of the signatory, which is not only expensive but also time intensive. So that's why AES is most likely going to be the right choice for you. What kind of documents can I sign with AES? You've got the typical employee onboarding, internal approval, standard contracts, training, board meetings, agreements such as non-disclosure agreements or T&Cs, and things like delivery orders. If you have specific documents that you're unsure about, please feel free to reach out to us and we can help you navigate depending on the location that you're based in, whether AES is the right choice for you. There are exclusions where you require qualified electronic signatures. They are predominantly in family law and for specific property transactions. So for example, if you want to sign wills or deeds for houses, you will likely require a qualified electronic signature. So, what implementation timeline am I looking at? It's a very important question, and the short answer is the majority of our customers are ready to sign within 1 to 6 weeks. So that is from starting implementation to the first customer signing a contract. However, that implementation timeline varies based on the solution you select, of course. If you opt for our off-the-shelf solution called Web Signature Office Live, which we're going to look at in a moment during the demo, then that is a lot quicker because it can be used on every major browser and the setup is instant. So for example, you could sign up today for free, get 10 free documents each month. There's no subscription required, simple pay-as-you-go structure. However, it only allows for a shallow workflow integration. If your business is looking for something more substantial, so to integrate a solution seamlessly into your workflow and completely automate the process in the background, you require our software development kit, which also brings you the highest return on investment, which we talked about before. Our software development kit is called Web Signature Office API, and it is either available as software as a service. You can run that on AWS, or especially relevant for our European customers, stack it, because they are compliant with the Privacy Shield agreement, so all of this data stays within the EU and does not migrate over. There's no chance the data might migrate over to the US. But of course, you can also host on your premise, if you want, even on your own big cloud computing platform, where we also support Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. So depending on whether you select software as a service or hosting on premise, you've got a couple of different options. At Step Over, we put an emphasis on making sure that all of our API documentation is very well done for integrators, and it allows you to design your own customer branding with your own color schemes, logos, and customized wording. And of course, because both solutions are cloud-based, they are operating system independent, and they also have the dedicated Android and iOS apps that you and your customers can download for free from the app stores. So let's get to the live demonstration and the compliance of signatures. Another very important question for you to consider is who can actually sign the documents that I'm sending them. And again, you'll be pleased to hear the short answer is everyone. There's no managed hardware required, no registration, no subscription or payment details necessary. So what kind of features can I expect from a cloud signature provider? Of course, you want to be able to sign both with handwritten or certificate-based signatures. You can also use templates or let your backend take care of that. You can have audit trails, which is very important, especially for our financial customers. They often require that. And you can have a feature called envelopes, which is basically a bundling of multiple documents together into one signature request. So let's say you have to, one of your customer needs to sign 4 different documents. You can simply put them all together, and you can even include features like a forced upload request if they, for example, need to upload their ID, a scan of their ID. Or you could even have a forced download where they need to download the terms and conditions or the NDA before they're able to initiate the signature process. And we support 2-factor authentication. Basically, you can either secure your documents with a password, or you can use our SMS one-time passcode, which acts as a secondary authentication that is also logged inside the audit trail. So let's get to the live demo of Web Signature Office. We're going to have first a look at the Click to Sign certificate. We're then going to move on to handwritten with a Brilliance pad, which is here on the left side of my desk. And then we're going to have a look at that QR code that I mentioned earlier in conjunction with a browser. And finally, we're going to look at the compliance. We're going to validate these signatures. So here you're able to see our user interface for the Web Signature Office Live. All you need to do is simply press to upload a document. I'm going to use the example document webinar, and it brings up the document here ready for your viewing. You can zoom in, zoom out, you can skip pages if you want to. And here at the bottom you see we've got 3 different fields that we want to sign now. First of all, we're going to press in the top left here to place a signature field, and now it gives us 3 options. I can either have a new guest signer where I can put in a name. That is if I want a customer that I have not previously engaged with to sign a document. I can choose one of my contacts, so that could be employees or regular people that I do business with. Or what we're going to do now is I want to sign myself or in this session. So I simply press submit, and now I can either pull up the signature field, or I can simply press and then drag it to the size that I want. To now sign, I simply press sign now as it suggests, and it gives me now the option, do I want to sign with a handwritten one, or do I want to sign with a click to sign certificate? I click here to sign. It now prompts me to put in my password as well as an optional text. I generally use my job title, and I can add a date and a timestamp. I simply press sign, and within a second we have now a digital certificate in here which holds the same validity as a handwritten signature. To sign with a pad, it works very much the same. We simply select myself, we move the signature pad in the location that we want it to go in, sign now. This time we obviously select handwritten, and now we have 3 options. We can either sign with the signature pad, we can sign with a smartphone or tablet, which we're going to use for this use case here, or we could even sign on this display. For example, I've got a Lenovo ThinkPad X1 here, which has got a touchscreen with a stylus, so I could sign directly on the display if I have a tablet PC available. But for now, we're going to use the signature pad, and on the right hand side, you should be able to see my phone with the signature pad right next to me so you can see what's happening. So it is now connecting to the signature pad, transferring the data onto it, and then once it's ready, it's going to allow me to sign and confirm it. And you'll see that, so the transmission of the phone is a bit slow, you'll see that within a couple of seconds, you've got that signature inserted here. The last one we're going to look at is placing a signature field, and we're going to this time use a QR code to sign it. So that could be, for example, that video sales that we earlier talked about. We again move the field to the right size that we want, sign now, handwritten, smartphone, and if you look to my phone now, I'm going to simply scan this QR code. It's going to open up it's going to prompt me to insert, to open a URL. And then it gives me the choice, do I want to sign either with our app, but you cannot assume that your customer will download the app. So I'm going to select, I'm going to sign with my Chrome browser. I simply press that, and then it brings up the document for myself. I now need to accept the terms and conditions because that is a requirement under EU law that both parties agree to sign electronically. So I accept them. And now I can review the contract in front of me. I already see the 2 existing signatures in there, as well as the highlighted blue field, which means this is where I should sign. To initiate the signing process, I press Start Signing, and it automatically takes me to the first field that I need to sign. If I now want to make the field a bit bigger, all I can do is simply turn it over into landscape mode and then sign in here with my finger or a pen. QR code. And now this is a finished document. As a customer, I could now press onto the small button here in the top to simply download the document, and I've got the original document. And as well, you can see here that the employee on the other side has got the same document present. To now finish this document, I simply need to make sure that all of the signatures are going to be embedded. And I can now download it. So we see this is a finished document. So let's talk about validation of the signatures. I'm going to download the document and I'm going to open it up in Adobe. You can use any free PDF reader that you want to use. Adobe is simply the industry standard, hence why I'm going to use it here. I'm just going to pull it up here to the right. Going to zoom out a bit so it's not that big. And you see here we've got now the 3 signatures present. If you hover over them, you'll also get the feedback. This is a field that has been filled in. So let's validate those signatures. All we need to do to validate a signature is simply press right click, then select validate signature, and it's going to give me a feedback here. The check mark means all of the certificates check out, and the most important sentence is here. The document has not been modified since the signature was applied. That is what a court of law is going to look for if there's ever dispute about this document, because it basically confirms the integrity of the document. So let's say you've got a 50-page document where you sign on page 49. This sentence means that nobody has attempted to switch out or manipulate any data or the entire page of the document, and that the signature has not been compromised. So this means this document is valid. And it now gives me a bit of more information. For example, if we go to signature properties, I can see the serial number of the pad that I used to sign this document. I can also see the hard drive ID inside of my computer, as well as the username, JUB for Julian Benz, that I have been signed on to my Windows account. And I also get the date stamp and the exact timestamp with the second when I signed this document. So if you compare that to a paper contract, you get a lot more information here to pinpoint the identity of the signatory in terms of where exactly this document was signed, which hardware was used. So if there's ever a dispute, the electronic signature allows you here to have a lot more information present to prove your case that the signatory that you claim to have signed the document is actually the person that you wanted to sign the document with. If we're looking at the QR code instead, again, it gives me the feedback. The document has not been modified since the signature was applied. And importantly, because I had my GPS located on my phone, it has also picked up on the GPS data. So if you type that into Google right now, you'll see exactly where my office is located inside my house. That's how precise it is. So, for example, if you're delivering goods and you want to make sure that you've got a proof that you have delivered them actually at the entrance of the construction site where that machine was required, you simply instruct your employee to turn on GPS when they collect the signature, and that allows you then a concrete pinpointing together with the date and the time, as well as you still have the signature image of the person who signed it to say, okay, this person has accepted the goods. So that was the compliance of the e-signature. Moving on to our summary. So, the immediate return on investment, as I said earlier, is obviously coming through saved idle labor time, through workflow optimization, reduced resource costs, quicker contract completion, and the reduction in your carbon footprint. You can digitize typical use cases such as face-to-face, internal approval, remote signatures, go to external clients, or even sign offline. If you feel like we did not cover your use case and you want to know whether your use case is feasible for electronic signatures, just reach out to us. We're happy to have a conversation with you. We can give you a short demo of the solutions, and we'll figure it out together. But so far, very few customers we've been unable to help. You can sign over 95% of your documents with advanced electronic signatures. Again, if you've got certain questions about which documents can you sign, please just reach out and we'll do our best to help. You're looking at an implementation timeline of usually 1 to 6 weeks. However, it is of course dependent on the depth of the integration and your choice between hosting on-premise or software as a service. All of our solutions are eIDAS and GDPR compliant. You saw it's a very easy validation of the signatures, and our company prides itself on the highest security standards in the industry. So I now give over to Joachim again for our Q&A session. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you very much, Julian. That was great. I have a lot of questions here. We have 1 minute left here. One is, I'm working in a big company. Which stakeholders do we have to involve to get that e-signature working with us?
Good question. So the important departments will probably be workflow management, so your IT department. It's always good to consult your legal department, especially when it comes to the validity of certain signatures for certain contracts, and your data privacy officer, simply to make sure that you're only capturing the information that you actually require.
Thank you. Another one is, or two questions about biometric data. What biometric data can be collected to identify a person or a signature?
Yeah, so it generally depends on the device, but commonly the biometric data that is collected are the signature pressure levels, so how hard you sign and how soft you sign along the signature, the acceleration and deceleration, and the direction of writing, which is especially important when it comes to things like crossing a T and dotting an I. All of those are subconscious behaviors that a handwriting expert can use to later determine whether the signatory is actually the person that they claim to be. Okay.
Last question for today. Can I start with a small proof of concept and then scale up gradually on the same server and just grow that thing in our company?
Certainly. So you can either do that, or we also provide a test server that will allow you to try the integration, and then once you're ready, you can switch to a production server when the rollout commences and then scale it from there. So you've got both options, either to stay on the same server from the beginning or to integrate it all on a test server, and once you're ready, start the implementation there and then.
Perfect. Julian, thank you. We are on time. Thanks everybody in that call. If we can help, just visit our website, drop us an email to Julian, myself, info@stepover.com. You'll find us and we'll get back to you. We have a last slide with our next seminar, which is on the 28th of April. Topic is deep dive into our e-signature software called e-signature Office. We will have a Spanish-speaking webinar in between and invite everybody, but the next English-speaking is on the 28th of April. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your lunch break and see you next time. Thank you. Thank you, Julian. Bye-bye.
Thank you.